Three men face radically different circumstances. One sits in bumper-to-bumper traffic, horns blaring, red brake lights stretching to the horizon. He feels powerless, trapped by forces he cannot control. Another stands in a Nazi concentration camp, 1944, gaunt, surrounded by barbed wire and guards. Everything has been taken: his home, his family, his dignity, his freedom. The third is Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, riding in his tent on a distant frontier, far from comfort, far from power, yet perfectly at peace. All three understand something the modern world has forgotten. Freedom is not what happens to you. Freedom is what you do with what happens to you. Without this truth, we are enslaved by traffic jams, difficult bosses, illness, and loss. We lash out at those around us. We let bitterness corrode our souls. We scroll endlessly, hand the keys of our mind to algorithms and strangers. We wear masks that suffocate us, and we tell ourselves we have no choice. Marcus Aurelius begins every morning reminding himself of the difficult people he will meet, the meddling, the ungrateful, the dishonest. But he refuses to be harmed by them. "We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes," he writes. He returns again and again to a single conviction. The mind without passions is a fortress. No place is more secure. He illustrates this with an image that haunted him: a clear spring that continues to flow and bubble even when someone shovels mud into it. The stream carries away the impurities. It remains unstained. The Bible speaks of the same fortress. Paul writes, "Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." Jesus says, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Not through circumstance, through truth, through knowing what actually matters. And Paul promises, "The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." A guarding presence around the mind, independent of what surrounds the body. Then came Viktor Frankl. In the concentration camp at Auschwitz, with everything stripped away, Frankl observed something that broke every assumption about freedom. Some prisoners walked through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. Despite the brutality, despite the deprivation, they retained what Frankl called the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the freedom to choose how he will meet his fate." Frankl's testimony proves what Marcus and Christ both understood. External chains cannot bind the soul unless we hand them the key. The real battle is never with circumstance. It is always in the mind, in the space between what happens and how you respond. Stoicism calls it virtue. Christianity calls it faith. Psychotherapy calls it responsibility. But they are all pointing at the same thing. There is a fortress within, and no external force can breach its walls unless you open the gate yourself. This is not about detachment from emotion. Marcus felt the weight of empire. Frankl felt the horror of the camps. Jesus felt the agony in the garden. But they possessed something the rest of us have forgotten: the power to choose their response. And in that choice, they found something closer to freedom than any external circumstance could ever grant. Consider what this means for your life. Right now, there is a moment coming, at work, in traffic, in a conversation, in grief. Something will trigger you. Someone will wrong you. Circumstances will press against you. In that moment, you will have a choice. Not over what happens. You cannot control that. But over what it means. Over whether you react or respond. Over whether you let the mud into the spring or let the spring carry the mud away. That single choice is your freedom. That is where the fortress is built. The three men return. One in traffic feels frustration rise, remembers Marcus, and chooses to listen to wisdom instead of fuming. One in the camp whispers an encouragement to a dying stranger. and in that act claims his unbreakable freedom. One in the tent hears the distant crash of war and smiles, knowing that whatever comes, his mind remains unconquered. They have nothing in common except one thing. They have chosen their response. And in that choice, they are more free than emperors, more secure than generals, more liberated than men sitting in comfortable cars. Freedom is not the absence of chains. It is the mastery of how you respond to them. Marcus knew this. Frankl proved it. Christ promised it. The fortress cannot be destroyed because it is not made of stone. It is made of choice, and choice remains yours until the moment you surrender it.